Okay, I realized at the end of the last video, but before I did everything else in the last video, we should have saved the script to a final projectile because we had the continuous working just how we wanted. So we're going to do a little bit of kind of backtracking here. I'm going to save this as I'm going to call it final projectile. Save that. And then I'm going to let's see, we're going to go ahead and close that for now. I'm going to reopen the continuous projectile one, and I'm going to reset it so it doesn't have those buttons. So a little bit of work that shouldn't have had to happen, but we're going to clear out the buttons that we made, clear out adding the images, clear out displaying those, moving those buttons. Okay, and so that should be, let's make sure this still runs the way we want. Okay, and you can see we're still zoomed in here, so we'll go ahead and before we save that for final, we'll go ahead and reset that to 1. Okay, so that way we just have a working version of something without the buttons should we ever choose to go back to it. So we'll just save that like so. It actually saved when we ran it, but so now we'll start editing our final projectile. So sorry we did a little bit of backtracking there, but okay, so once again I'm going to kind of this time I'll actually walk through it because the making of the sprites, that was purely tedious. This next one, a little bit of explanation might be useful. So I'm still going to do the same thing where I sort of cheat and I use the fact that I've already done it, already made it, to look back and just kind of help my brain remember what I did and why I did it. Okay, we can get, you guys didn't even see my toggle thing. We can get rid of that. That shouldn't even be in your script. I was testing some things off camera. So a couple of other things that we're going to need. We're going to need to check whether or not someone has pushed the manual button. So I'm going to make a new Boolean we're going to call it manual button pushed. We're going to set that to false. And then we're also going to make a zoom button pushed. So we're going to check to see if anyone is trying to zoom in or out. And we are going to set that to false. And we're also going to make a vector button pushed, and we're going to set that equal to false to check to see if anyone has pushed on the vector button in the screen as well. So we've added some Boolean variables up here. So the script that you are working on is one on the right. This is my old one on the left. So for the most part, ignore the one over here on the left. I'm just using it to help me along here. Okay, so if we push on buttons, right? If we push on it like with the mouse, if we click on something, what do we want to have happen? Let's come right above our key presses. Where's my key presses? Okay, right here. Tell Python what to do when we press various keys. So right above that, let's add in a new line. We'll comment it and say tell Python what to do when we click on buttons, right? Don't really need to capitalize that. And so this is going to be very similar to the key press, but now rather than check key down, we're going to check mouse button down. So for event in pygame.event.get, open and close parentheses, open a colon so that we're watching for an event in Pygame. If that event is someone pressing the mouse button, so mouse button down in all caps, and if a sprite has been clicked on, so we've got another new function here, sprite clicked, that's checking to see if we've clicked on any image, any of the sprites that we've added. So if sprite clicked is our hvel plus 1, then what do we want to do? Well, we want to add 1 to our active horizontal speed. We want to add 1 to whatever we want to tell the computer to set the horizontal velocity of our ball to, right? That's that soft-coded variable we used a little bit ago. And we're going to do the same thing for a lot of these. So since I've already explained that, I'll go ahead. We're going to do the same thing for if they click on the +10, the -1, the -10, and the same thing for the vertical acceleration. So these all here are exactly the same. So I'm going to copy these in. All right, so now if they clicked on the HVAL plus 10, if they clicked on HVAL minus 1, minus 10, V acceleration plus 1, plus 10, minus 1, minus 10, etc. We're just changing those values that we soft coded earlier to correspond with whatever button that was just pushed. Okay. If they press the reset button, if sprite clicked is the reset button, what do we want to have happen? Well, in this case, we don't want to delete anything, right? We just want to set the ball back to 0, make sure it's not moving anymore, reset the clock, right? Reset the spawn delay, all those good things. So we're also going to change our indicator color to 0, right? Because we're resetting, we don't want that to be counting anymore. So indicator color to 0. Ball.xpos equals 100. Ball.ypos equals 100. Ball.xval, you get the idea. We're going to set that to 0. We're going to set the yval to 0. We're going to set the acceleration back to 0. We're just resetting everything. And we're also going to reset the clock value. Okay, so that's what we're going to do if we press the reset button. Now the clear button, okay, so the difference between the clear button and the reset button is the reset button just resets the position of the ball to where we start, right? The kind of resetting it to where it was when it opened. With the clear button, I'm envisioning a situation where maybe the person using it wants to get rid of all of those dots that they've drawn. They want to start over completely, and so this is how we're going to do it. First, we're going to do the same thing as if we just hit the reset button. So if sprite clicked, clear button, we're just going to go ahead and copy all of this, paste it down in here. But we want to take an extra step now, right? We want to reset the active vertical accel back to 10, to kind of our native value for that. We want to reset the active horizontal speed back to 50. So again, our native setting for that. We want to clear shapes. So the vector lines that we've drawn are technically shapes, and so we're going to clear those out. And then we are going to get rid of all those indicators too. The way we're going to do that is we're going to say for indicator in, and I don't know that I've made that list yet actually. Let's go ahead and make sure that I have made that list. Oh, of course we have. Every time we, every time we push an H button or whatnot, we're making that list. So that should be good, as long as I called it the same thing as I called. So for any indicators in the indicator list that we've made, again, hopefully I called it. Let's just check. Let's make sure I've said the same thing. Indicator list. Okay, that looks like it's got the same capitalization and whatnot, so we should be good there. So for any indicator in the indicator list, we are just going to hide it. We're not actually even technically deleting it. We're just going to make it invisible so that no one can see it anymore. Okay, so that should be that. Let's tab back up to the where we've got those other if statements. So if the sprite clicked is the vectors on button. Sprite, oh, buddy, man. Sprite clicked, excuse me again, is the vectors on button. There we go. Let's see, we are going to set the vectors toggle to true, because they just pushed the on button, right? So we want to set that to true. And then we want to set the vector button pushed to true as well. Now we haven't done anything with that yet. We haven't done anything with the vector button pushed toggle, but that's how we're going to switch which one is glowing. We're going to use that, the true true value of that variable to tell the computer when to change it from one glowing to the other one glowing. So we'll do that in a little bit. For now, we're just going to set that vector button pushed equals true. Likewise, if sprite clicked and it's the vectors off button, we are going to change vectors IO to false now. So that's our vectors toggle on and off. We're going to set that to false. and then someone still pressed a vector button, so we're going to do vector button pushed equals true, right? Because someone just pushed it, so we need to check to make sure we've got the change that we need happening actually happening. We're going to do the same thing for the manual buttons, so I'm just going to copy this text down here, because again that's exactly the same as what we just did. Oop, and yeah, I thought I copied too much there. Okay. So if the manual on button is pushed, then set manual mode to true, and then tell the computer we pushed one of the manual buttons. And if we push the manual off button, set manual to false, and tell the computer we pushed one of the manual buttons, right? And again, we're going to do something with that manual button pushed value a little bit later. Okay. And I'm probably eating up some time. How about now we'll power through. We'll make this a longer video. You can always pause it halfway through if you need to get up, stretch around, come back to this a little bit later. But we're going to power all the way through, toggling all of these buttons. We'll do this in one big video. Okay, so the next one is if the sprite is the H button. So if we push the horizontal motion button, now we need to divide this into two parts, right? Because if we push the H button and the manual motion is true, we want to do one thing. And if we push the H button and manual motion is false, we want to do another thing, right? So if we push the H button and manual motion is double equal sign is equal to, what am I starting with? False, if it's false. What do we want to do? Well, we want to set the indicator. Actually, you know what? If manual motion is false, what we want to do is we want to do whatever we were going to do down here when we press the H key. We want that to happen when we press the horizontal motion button, right? So that's easier. Just copy and paste what you've got under the when manual motion is false and you press the H key. We want that exact same thing to happen when we press the horizontal motion button. Likewise, if sprite clicked is the H button, but this time manual motion is equal to true, what do we want to have happen? Well, in this case, let's see, equal to true. Here we go, right here. This is what we want. Okay. And so we are going to copy this, and we are going to paste it right here. All right. We're going to do the same thing with the V button. We're going to do the same thing with the C button, or the combined motion, right? So, and actually, let's go ahead and just copy the H button version where it's false. We'll copy the H button version where it's true. Oops, we don't want that to, Peter did the right thing there, but we don't want that to happen just yet. And so that's going to be for the vertical motion. I'm going to copy both of those. Come one under again, we're going to copy both of those. That's going to be the combined motion, right? So if we press the V button and if we press the C button, okay? And so if we press the V button and manual motion is false, well then we want the same thing that happens when we press the V key and manual motion is false. Copy that, paste it in, and if we press the V button and manual motion is true, well then we want what happens when we press the V key and manual motion is true, right? It's exactly the same thing as pushing the button, or as pushing the key, but it's just a nice on-screen button way to do it, right? Same thing, C key and false. There we have it. C button and false. And finally we have C key and true. And C button and true. Okay. How many buttons do I have left? There's the V button and true, C button and false, C button and true. Okay, and finally, if we press the Z1 button, Z2 button, Z3 button, these are the zoom in and out buttons. And so, again, we're going to come under here. If sprite clicked is Z1 button, what do we want to do? Well, we want to set the pixel meter ratio let's see, the Z1 button is zoom 1, so that's the closest zoomed in we ever get. So we want the pixel media ratio to be 100. Then we want to set the zoom button pushed equal to true, because again, we're going to highlight one of those buttons, and that's how we're going to tell the computer, hey, if this is true, then that means someone has just pushed a button and we want you to do some stuff, right? So if sprite clicked is the Z2 button, we are going to set the pixel meter ratio, capital N, buddy, to 10, and then we're going to run the zoom button pushed equals true. And finally, if sprite clicked is Z3 button, I want you to set that to 1, and then I want you to set the zoom button pushed to true. Okay, so again, a little bit of tedium here, right? This is part of programming, but now we are telling telling it to do a lot of different things. Now we'll need to add in some things here for this. I don't even know. Haven't seen this is okay. So this is why you should program just a few things at a time and test them, because now if I run this, something goes wrong, I've got a lot of stuff to check, right? I'm thinking, so I know that pushing the zoom in and out and the manual on and off buttons aren't going to work just yet because I haven't programmed, but I think the horizontal motion should actually work. Let's give this a try. Maybe something will go wrong here. All right, well, we didn't get any errors. So I haven't told, one thing I haven't told this to update the horizontal velocity, vertical acceleration and stuff. But if I press the horizontal button, vectors off button is not, oh, I didn't, I misspelled something. So we're going to find that. Let's go ahead and just close this out, huh? Ugh, scary. Alright, so somewhere I misspelled vectors something button. Let's look for the word button. That should only be in there once. Yeah, okay. So I didn't put two T's in here. Button. Alright, let's try this again. So I think, yeah, the horizontal motion works. Now you can see it thinks that manual mode is on because we haven't done anything with that yet. And if we do vertical, vertical should work as well. We haven't fixed our zoom in and out yet, but at least the clicking of the buttons works. We'll go ahead and make sure that everything is nice and polished in the next video, and that it actually displays correctly and stuff like that. But we have semi-functioning buttons, having done all that. So if you powered all the way through this video, congratulations. You are a rock star. I'll see you in the next one.